Hello and welcome back to the Mornville Community Library, and this month's creativity kit is a cross stitch. So your cross stitch will look like this when you have finished it. So I'm going to show you what's going to be in your kit. So in your kit you are going to get a map of your counted cross stitch pattern, and it will have a legend with all the different colors on it, and those ones will be on a lovely strip of cardboard, and it'll have all your colors on. And you will get an embroidery hoop, and you will get, I think it's 8x7 piece of Aida cloth, and you will get a special needle. And so this needle is special because it doesn't have a sharp point. It actually is a rounded point. I don't know if you can see it. So less chance of you poking your fingers and bleeding, because that's not good for cross stitch. Okay, so what you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is, I'm going to show you on this one, is you are going to fold your cross stitch in half. And then you get a string, any string that you would like, or thread, and you're going to make a line down your cross stitch. And then once you have that done, you're going to fold it again, and you're going to make another stitch across. So that will be the middle of your cross stitch. Also, on your map of your pattern, you can see this red line with an arrow right there, and it will show you the middle of your cross stitch this way. And it's going to show, it's hard to see, but there is a red line that is going straight across here. Okay, so that is your center lines like I have on this side. So then you can see that I have this tape across the top, and actually the reason that I have the tape across this one and not this one is actually, this one is actually sewn. And if you have a sewing machine, what you could do is just quickly do a zigzag stitch around your cross stitch Aida cloth, and it's called Aida cloth, and it is a 14 count Aida cloth. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this hoop, which is a little smaller because I have a smaller piece than what you are getting. Okay, so how you do it is you unscrew this, and you're going to put this one on top of your Aida cloth. And as you can see, it makes it nice and tight because you don't want to warp your Aida cloth when you are doing cross stitch. It's just, it makes your whole pattern, what happens, instead of being straight up and down like this, it might start going sideways, and then to stretch it back is really hard to do. So I actually started this one a little while ago, and actually you can see on our map here, or legend for the pattern, that this A is 1 over from the red, and what I did is I made the first letter, and then on the map it said go over 2 to do the next one. And now I'm going to do the A from day. So what I'm going to show you now is how to pull your thread out, because you're only going to use one thread out of this bundle when you are doing your counted cross stitch. And the reason it's called counted cross stitch is it's not a printed pattern, and you have to count a lot with this one. So there's two ways to put your thread on your needle. So you could take the two of them like this, put them straight together, and you can put your eye through the needle, and it's a little frustrating if you don't get both of them at the same time. But the way that I did it before was I went to this loop and took the eye of the needle, pushed my loop through, and there your needle is threaded. And the reason that I want this loop here is that's how we're going to tie it into the, tie it into the cross stitch kit, onto the cross stitch. So what I'm going to do is this letter A. So I'm going to go over one thread over, and I'm going to poke my needle up through here, and I'm going to poke it down here. And now I'm going to take the needle, pull it almost all the way through, and take my needle and go through there. So it's almost like a knot, but it's not a knot. And one thing I should tell you is once you start doing your stitches, so if I'm going from left to right, I have to do all of my stitches from left to right on the whole project. And I'm going to show you because there is going to be a half stitch. You can see on here it's not a full stitch, so we're going to do a half stitch. So this side is okay. And now we're going to do the half stitch. Okay, so I'm going to pull it up. So instead of going to this hole right here, I'm going to do it straight in the middle there. And if you're careful, you can see that it's not as big as this stitch. And now I'm going to go down. So I'm still doing the same way that these stitches were started, but I'm just starting at a different point when I'm going down. Okay, so now we're going to start on our last word on this one. So we're going to go over to the Y and start doing the Y. So we're going to go 1, 2, like I said, counted cross stitch. So we're going to go 1, 2, and it's going to be right there. And with the finger on the back. And now we're just going to keep on going with the next one. So we're going to go up 1, 2, 3. And go up 1. So this is where our half is going to be. So I'm going to go through there. And then we're going to go up on this side. So the other side is the other half one. So we're still going to go over here. So here's our other half knot, our half stitch. So we're going to take our needle and very carefully push it through. Remember about not trying to poke yourself with the needle. You will poke yourself if you do it hard enough. Okay, so this is the end of this letter. So, and also the line. So what you could do is you could go down and start doing the other one, but I'm going to show you two things. First of all, if your thread gets too twisted, sometimes it will start snagging and making knots on your project, and to take a knot out of when you're cross stitching sometimes is really hard, especially if you're working on black. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to anchor your threads to start a new thread sometimes, or sometimes when you only have a little bit of stuff left. So what you're going to go is you're going to go on your back side, and what you're going to do is just take your needle and you're going to go under maybe 4 or 5 of the stitches. And when you are doing your cross stitch, it's pretty important to do it tight enough that it's not loose, but at the same time not too tight, because it also will distort your cross stitch pattern. So then what you do is I've gone through there, and now I don't need a knot for ending that line. Okay, so then we just could cut it. Can I borrow your scissors? Thank you. It's good to have an assistant. And so I am going to cut it. And also what you should do is cut it kind of short. Don't cut it too long, because what happens sometimes is when you're doing your cross stitch, if you grab it, you're actually going to start grabbing it through your project, and that's not always good. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, we're going to try and do the start of one of the books, and I've already started on this one, and it's the purple one. I think it's purple still, or is it, what color is it here? Purple. So it's a light purple and a dark purple. So actually I'm going to do the brown one. So if you didn't have the purple one done, what you would do is you would go to your A and you would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you would go 1 down and you would start your next one. So if this wasn't there, so you would go all the way over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and you would start your first stitch and you would go down, down, still going left to right with your directions, but you would go that one. But I'm going to, because I have this one already, what I'm actually going to go is I'm going to look at this pattern, and I see that the brown is 1 stitch over from the purple. So I would go up, or up that way, down that way, and I would do my loop again and pull it through, and there's my first stitch for the next one. And since I know there's quite a few stitches, I'm going to do about 4 or 5, and then I'm going to count to see how many more I have. And my first stitches are still going the same direction as my very beginner ones. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I counted twice. Always count twice. It's just like when you're cutting wood. You measure twice and you cut once. It's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so then I can go down. One, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Whoops. And I actually missed the hole. So all I'm going to do is going to pull this back out and make sure I have the right hole. And then I'm going to just go across until my stitches match, because it's a rectangle, but it's going to be a giant U shape, actually. So once you've finished your project, there's a couple different options of what you can do with it. What I've done is I actually bought a small frame, and actually it's a little too big for the frame, and one of the options I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make another set of books and maybe a little bookcase around it. That's one idea. What you could also do is, once you're done, is you can very carefully trim it, and you can hang it right in your embroidery frame that you had. But there is also one thing that we will need to talk about. As much as you are going to keep your hands as clean as possible when doing your cross stitch, before you do anything, suggestion is to wash it in cold water, hand wash, and use a tiny bit of soap, and then leave it dry, flat, and then with an iron you can do it, but make sure when you iron it that you have something on top of your piece, because one, you don't want to burn it, and that's pretty important. You don't want to spend all this time working on it and then to have it burn. And then once it's dry, then you can put it back in your embroidery frame and trim it very carefully. And actually what you might want to do is you might want to glue it. A little bit of white glue on the edges to stop it from fraying, and then frame it, and then you can hang it from your top of your embroidery hook. And I hope you enjoy this, and when you've completed it, we would love to see your completed project. And see you soon at the Bourneville Community Library. Bye.